Hello everyone, I'm your host Adam, and as always, I'm here with my wonderful co-host Julia. How are you doing today, Julia?
Hi Adam, I'm doing great, thank you. And hello to all of our listeners. We're really excited to be with you again for another podcast episode that's going to help you improve your English skills. Today's topic is something that I think is really important for anyone learning English, whether you're just starting or you've been studying for a while. Isn't that right, Adam?
Absolutely, Julia. We have a great topic lined up for today, one that I believe will be very useful for everyone listening. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of practicing English with your friends and family. This is a topic that comes up a lot when people ask us for advice on how to get better at speaking English. Practicing with friends and family is one of the most effective and, honestly, one of the easiest ways to improve your language skills. And the best part is, you can do it in a relaxed, everyday environment.
Yes, exactly. A lot of people think that learning English has to be something formal, like sitting in a classroom or studying from a textbook. And while those things are important, practicing in real-life situations, especially with the people you know well, can really help you become more comfortable and confident in speaking. Today we're going to talk about why it's so beneficial to practice English with the people around you, and we're also going to give you some tips on how to do it. Whether you're talking with friends at home, texting them in English, or even having conversations with family members, every bit of practice helps.
That's right. And in today's episode, we're going to cover a lot of ground. First, we'll talk about why practicing with friends and family is so important when you're learning a new language. We'll explain how these everyday conversations can help you improve your speaking, listening, and even thinking in English. Then, we'll move on to practical tips, how you can start incorporating English into your daily interactions with friends and family, whether it's through casual conversations, games, or activities that make learning fun. And finally, we'll talk about some common challenges you might face and how to overcome them, like feeling shy or unsure about making mistakes in front of people you know.
Yes, I think a lot of our listeners will find this really helpful, especially those who might be feeling a bit nervous about speaking English with people they know. It can be intimidating at first, but the more you practice, the easier it becomes. And the great thing about practicing with friends and family is that you can do it anytime, anywhere. You don't need to be in a formal setting or even have a lot of time. Just small conversations throughout the day can make a big difference over time.
Absolutely. And by the end of today's episode, we hope that you'll feel inspired to start practicing English more regularly with the people around you. Remember, the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to practice consistently and improve little by little. So whether you're speaking English with your best friend over coffee, chatting with a sibling, or even practicing with your parents, every conversation helps. So, stay with us as we dive into this important topic today.
That's right. We've got a lot of great information to share, so grab your notebook if you want to jot down some ideas, or just sit back and listen. By the end of this episode, you'll have some practical strategies you can start using right away to practice English with your friends and family. And who knows, you might even find that practicing English with your loved ones can be a lot of fun.
Definitely. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Here's why practicing English with your friends and family can make such a big difference in your language learning journey. Now, let's dive into why practicing English with your friends and family is so important, especially when it comes to building fluency and becoming more confident in your speaking skills. When you think about learning a new language like English, it's easy to focus on studying grammar, memorizing vocabulary, and doing written exercises, all of which are essential parts of the learning process. However, one of the key aspects that often gets overlooked is the importance of speaking the language regularly, using it in real, everyday conversations, and this is where friends and family can play a huge role. When you practice with people you know, such as your close friends or family members, you create an environment that is much more relaxed and natural compared to formal settings like classrooms or language exchange programs. This sense of comfort allows you to be more at ease, which is crucial for language learning, because it reduces the anxiety and nervousness that many people feel when they're speaking in a language they're not fully confident in yet. Consistent practice, especially with people you trust, is one of the most effective ways to improve your fluency because it allows you to engage in real-time conversations, make mistakes, and learn from them in a supportive space.
Yes, Adam, that's such a great point. One of the biggest hurdles for many English learners is the fear of making mistakes, especially when speaking. But when you practice with friends or family members, people who are patient and understanding, it becomes much easier to let go of that fear and just focus on improving. You're in a space where you don't have to worry about being judged or feeling embarrassed. And the beauty of this kind of practice is that it can be done consistently, as often as you want, without needing any special preparation. Think about it. If you're speaking English every day, even if it's just for a few minutes at a time, those small conversations add up, and before you know it, your fluency improves dramatically over time. The more you practice, the more comfortable you become with the language, and this is especially true when practicing with loved ones. When you're surrounded by people who support you, you're less likely to feel self-conscious about stumbling over a word or using the wrong tense. Instead, you're more likely to feel encouraged to try again, to keep going, and to push yourself to speak more often. This regular informal practice gives you the freedom to experiment with new words, phrases, and sentence structures, which is incredibly beneficial for language development.
Exactly. And when it comes to developing fluency, there's nothing more powerful than speaking the language consistently in a setting where you feel safe to make mistakes and learn from them. Fluency isn't just about knowing a lot of words or understanding complex grammar. It's about being able to use the language in a way that feels natural and fluid. This only comes from repeated, real-world practice, and practicing with friends and family is one of the easiest ways to get that kind of experience. You can have spontaneous conversations in English that don't feel forced or unnatural because they're woven into your daily life. For example, imagine you're at home, talking with your family about what you're going to cook for dinner or discussing weekend plans with your friends. These are situations where the language flows more freely because the focus isn't on the language itself, but rather on the conversation. And that's the magic of practicing with people close to you. The more you focus on the conversation rather than on the language, the more naturally the words will come to you. Over time, your brain begins to process English more automatically, and you'll find yourself speaking without having to pause and think too much about what to say next.
That's so true. And this ties directly into the idea of building confidence when speaking English. Confidence is often one of the hardest things for language learners to develop, and it's something that only comes with time and practice. But when you're speaking with friends or family, you're in an environment where you feel supported, which makes it easier to take risks with the language. You can try out new words, experiment with sentence structures, or even try mimicking the way native speakers talk without the fear of being laughed at or criticized. And the more you practice, the more you'll notice your confidence growing. You'll start to feel more comfortable not just speaking in front of friends and family, but also in more formal settings like school, work, or even with strangers. What's also great about practicing with loved ones is that they're often familiar with your language learning journey. They know where you might struggle, and they can offer gentle corrections and encouragement. Unlike a classroom setting, where there might be pressure to perform perfectly, practicing at home or with close friends allows you to learn at your own pace, making mistakes in a judgment-free zone. Over time, you'll notice that this relaxed practice builds your confidence in ways that formal learning environments might not be able to. You'll become more comfortable with the flow of conversation, and before you know it, speaking English will feel more like second nature.
Exactly. And let's not forget that practicing with friends and family can also be a lot of fun. Because you're in a comfortable and familiar setting, the conversations can be more playful and lighthearted, which helps take the pressure off. You can joke around, tell stories, or even share funny mistakes you've made while learning English, and this kind of positive reinforcement makes the learning experience more enjoyable. When you enjoy the process, you're much more likely to stick with it and practice more often. This kind of consistent, enjoyable practice is what leads to real progress over time. Fluency doesn't happen overnight, but with regular conversations, whether they're long discussions or just short exchanges throughout the day, you'll find that your speaking skills improve little by little. And because you're practicing in a space where you feel comfortable, you're also more likely to push yourself to speak more often, even in situations where you might have previously been hesitant.
Exactly, Adam. So, to sum it all up, practicing English with friends and family is not just important, it's essential. It gives you the opportunity to practice speaking in a relaxed, supportive environment, which is one of the best ways to build fluency and confidence. The more you practice, the more natural the language will feel, and the more comfortable you'll become with speaking English in any situation, whether it's with close friends, at work, or even in public. So, if you haven't already started practicing with the people around you, now's the perfect time to give it a try.
Now that we've talked about why practicing English with friends and family is so important, let's get into the practical side of things. We're going to share some specific tips on how you can practice English with your friends in a way that feels natural, fun, and effective. Often people don't realize how many opportunities they have to speak English casually throughout the day. You don't always need a formal lesson or structured practice session to get better at speaking English. In fact, some of the best ways to improve are through casual, everyday conversations with your friends. One of the easiest ways to incorporate English into your daily life is simply by encouraging casual conversations in English. This can be as simple as agreeing with your friends that, for certain parts of the day or during certain activities, you'll try to speak only in English. It doesn't have to be for long periods, maybe just for 15 or 20 minutes at a time. The key is to make speaking English a regular habit, rather than something you only do in a formal setting. For example, if you're meeting a friend for coffee or chatting online, you could suggest that for a portion of the conversation, you both speak in English. The conversation doesn't need to be about anything complicated or academic. It could be about everyday things like how your day is going, what you did over the weekend, or your plans for the evening. By doing this consistently, you'll find that English becomes a more natural part of your life, and over time, your ability to communicate fluently will improve without you even realizing it.
That's a great tip, Adam. I think a lot of people feel like they have to wait for the right moment to practice English, but the truth is, every moment is an opportunity. And when you practice casually with friends, the pressure is much lower because you're not being judged or graded like you might be in a classroom. One really simple way to practice is to start sharing your daily activities in English. For example, you can talk to your friends about what you're doing that day, whether you're going to school, heading to work, or even just hanging out at home. These kinds of conversations might seem basic, but they're actually a great way to practice common phrases and vocabulary that you'll use in everyday life. You can also talk about your hobbies or interests in English, which is a fun way to make language practice more engaging. If you and your friends share a hobby, whether it's playing a sport, watching movies, or even gaming, you can try discussing those topics in English. It makes the conversation more interesting because you're talking about something you enjoy, and at the same time, you're building your vocabulary around topics that are relevant to your life. And the best part is, because these conversations are happening with friends, they're relaxed and informal, which takes away a lot of the anxiety that can come with practicing English in more structured environments.
Absolutely, Julia. Talking about your daily activities or hobbies in English is such a great way to practice because it's natural and doesn't feel forced. Another fun and interactive way to practice English with your friends is by playing English language games. Now, these don't have to be boring or overly academic. There are plenty of fun games that can help you practice speaking and thinking in English without it feeling like a chore. One game I really recommend is word association. It's simple but very effective for building vocabulary and improving quick thinking in English. You and your friends can take turns saying a word, and the next person has to say the first word that comes to their mind in response, but in English. For example, if I say summer, you might say beach, and then the next person might say sand. It's a fast-paced game that challenges you to think in English without overthinking, and it's a lot of fun when you play with friends. Another great option is quiz games. You can create a quiz where each person has to answer questions in English, whether it's about general knowledge, pop culture, or even specific topics you're all interested in. You can take turns being the quiz master and asking questions, and everyone has to respond in English. Not only does this help improve your English comprehension and speaking skills, but it also adds an element of competition, which makes the learning process more engaging. Plus, it's a fantastic way to bond with friends while practicing the language in a way that feels less formal and more like entertainment.
I love the idea of games, Adam, because they really take the pressure off and allow you to practice English in a fun and relaxed environment. And speaking of fun, another great way to practice English with your friends is by watching English movies or TV shows together and then discussing them afterward. This is something that's not only enjoyable, but also extremely beneficial for your listening and speaking skills. When you watch something in English, you're exposing yourself to the natural flow of the language, picking up on accents, pronunciation, and conversational patterns that you might not get from textbooks. After you finish watching, you and your friends can have a discussion about the movie or show in English. You can talk about your favorite characters, the storyline, or even what you thought about the ending. This kind of discussion is great for practicing not just casual conversation, but also more in-depth speaking skills as you express your thoughts and opinions in English. And if you want to take it a step further, you can even turn it into a regular activity. Maybe once a week or every other week, you and your friends could pick a movie or TV show to watch in English, and then set aside time to talk about it afterward. It's a great way to combine entertainment with learning, and because you're discussing something you all enjoyed watching, it makes the conversation flow more naturally. Over time, you'll notice that your ability to discuss more complex topics in English improves, and you'll feel more confident expressing your thoughts in longer, more detailed sentences.
That's such a great tip, Julia. And it really highlights how much you can learn from just incorporating English into the activities you already enjoy. Whether it's casual conversations, playing games, or watching movies, the key is to make English a part of your everyday life in a way that feels fun and manageable. The more you can integrate the language into your daily routine, the faster you'll improve. And the best part is, when you practice with friends, you're not just learning, you're also building strong connections with the people around you through the shared experience of learning a new language together.
Exactly, Adam. And what's great about all of these tips is that they can be adapted to suit any level of English proficiency. Whether you're just starting out or you're more advanced, the key is to engage in conversations that are comfortable and enjoyable. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and don't feel like you need to speak perfectly every time. The goal is to practice consistently, have fun, and gradually build your confidence and fluency over time.
Now that we've explored how friends can play a big role in helping you practice English, let's dive into another equally important area: practicing English with family. Many people underestimate just how helpful family can be in learning a language. But the truth is, family members can provide one of the most supportive and encouraging environments for practicing. Whether your family members are also learning English or are fluent in the language, there are so many ways they can help you build your skills in a relaxed and familiar setting. Let's start by talking about one of the easiest and most natural opportunities to practice English: during family meals or gatherings. Sitting down together for meals is often a time when families catch up with each other, talk about their day, and share stories. This is a perfect opportunity to engage in simple English conversations. You don't need to have deep, complex discussions to practice your English. Instead, you can talk about everyday topics like how your day went, what you're planning to do the next day, or even something interesting you saw or heard recently. These casual conversations help build your comfort and fluency in speaking English. You can start small, maybe just a few sentences at first, and gradually increase the amount of English you use during meals. Because you're with your family, it's a safe space where you don't have to worry about making mistakes or feeling embarrassed. Everyone is there to support you, and that makes practicing English a lot easier and less stressful.
That's such a great point, Adam. Family meals are such an important part of daily life, and turning them into opportunities to practice English is a wonderful idea. And what's really great about practicing with family is that you can keep the conversation light and informal. For example, you could ask your family members simple questions in English like, "How was your day?" or "What did you do today?" These are questions you would naturally ask in your native language, but by switching to English, you're building valuable speaking practice without it feeling forced or unnatural. Over time, as everyone gets used to these little English conversations, you can expand them to include more topics, like talking about plans for the weekend, discussing favorite family memories, or even talking about recent news or events. Another way that family can help is by practicing vocabulary together. This might sound simple, but it can actually be a really effective way to build your English word knowledge. One idea is to label objects around the house in English. You can create small labels or sticky notes with the English names of common household items, things like table, chair, refrigerator, mirror, window, and so on. Once you've labeled the items, it becomes a fun and interactive way to practice vocabulary as you go about your daily routine. Every time you see one of those labels, you're reinforcing the English word for that object. And if your family members are also involved in the process, they can help you by pointing out new words or challenging you to remember certain words throughout the day. It's a simple activity, but over time, it can make a big difference in building your vocabulary.
That's a great tip, Julia. I really like the idea of using the home environment as a learning tool because it's something that's always around you, and labeling objects in English is especially helpful for beginners who are still getting familiar with basic vocabulary. What's nice about this method is that it's something the whole family can participate in. Even if your family members don't speak much English themselves, they can help remind you of the words or quiz you on them throughout the day. For example, if you're all sitting in the living room and someone says, "What's the word for this in English?" while pointing to a chair, it becomes a quick and easy way to practice vocabulary in a real-world context. And because it's part of your daily life, you're more likely to remember the words over time. Another great way to involve your family in your English practice is by reading English books or stories aloud to each other. This can be especially fun if you have younger siblings or children in the family because you can choose simple English storybooks that are suitable for all ages. Reading aloud is a fantastic way to improve pronunciation and build confidence in speaking English. When you read aloud, you're not only practicing your speaking skills, but you're also getting used to the rhythm and flow of the language. And if you're reading with family members, they can help you if you get stuck on a word or aren't sure how to pronounce something. You can take turns reading paragraphs or pages, which makes it a shared activity that everyone can enjoy.
Yes, reading aloud is such an effective way to practice English, and it's something the whole family can get involved in. It's especially helpful for practicing pronunciation because you're forced to sound out each word, which can help you get more comfortable with how English words are pronounced. And if you're reading together as a family, it creates an opportunity for everyone to learn new vocabulary and phrases. For example, after reading a page or two, you can stop and discuss any new words or interesting phrases you came across. This turns the reading activity into a more interactive learning experience. Another idea is to turn reading time into a routine, like reading a chapter of a book together each night before bed. Over time, you'll start to notice improvements in your speaking fluency, pronunciation, and even comprehension. And if you're reading a story that everyone enjoys, it becomes less about practicing English and more about sharing a fun and meaningful experience with your family. Plus, when you practice regularly like this, it reinforces the language and helps make English a more natural part of your daily life.
I completely agree, Julia. Reading aloud is such a powerful tool, especially when it becomes a routine that the whole family participates in. And speaking of family participation, Another way family can help is by providing support in correcting grammar or helping with pronunciation. This can be incredibly valuable, especially if you have family members who are fluent in English or have a strong grasp of the language. They can gently correct you when you make mistakes and offer suggestions on how to improve. For example, if you're having a conversation with a family member in English and you make a grammar mistake, they can point it out in a kind and supportive way. It's important to remember that making mistakes is a natural part of learning, and having someone there to help you correct those mistakes can speed up the learning process. And when it comes to pronunciation, your family can be a big help as well. If you're struggling with certain sounds or words, a family member can model the correct pronunciation for you, and you can practice repeating it until you get it right. This is especially helpful because pronunciation is one of those areas where it's easy to develop bad habits if you're not corrected early on. Having family members who are willing to help you with this can make a huge difference in your ability to speak clearly and confidently in English.
Absolutely, Adam. Family support in correcting grammar and pronunciation is so valuable because it's done in a loving and supportive environment. You don't have to worry about being judged or criticized because your family is there to help you improve, not to point out your mistakes. And what's great about practicing with family is that you can ask for feedback whenever you need it. If you're unsure about how to pronounce a word or use a certain grammar rule, you can turn to your family for guidance. Over time, this kind of regular feedback helps build your confidence and makes you feel more comfortable speaking English in other settings, like with friends, in school, or even at work.
Adam, so far, we've talked about the many ways friends and family can help us practice English, whether it's through casual conversations, playing fun language games, or even reading books together. But one of the most important things to keep in mind when learning a language is consistency. The more often you practice, the more quickly you'll improve. That's why, in this segment, we're going to focus on how to create a regular practice schedule with your friends and family. Setting aside specific times to practice English can help you stay on track, stay motivated, and ensure that you're practicing enough to make real progress. So let's dive into how you can do this effectively. One of the best ways to make sure you're consistently practicing English is to set up regular times to speak English with your friends and family. You don't have to do this every single day. Sometimes that's just not realistic, but even scheduling a few days each week can make a big difference. For example, you might decide that during dinner time, you'll only speak English with your family. This could be for just 15 or 20 minutes during the meal, but over time, these short bursts of practice add up and help build your fluency. If dinner doesn't work, you could choose another regular time, such as during the weekends or while doing specific activities together, like going for a walk or cooking. The key here is to make practicing English a regular part of your routine, just like brushing your teeth or exercising. By having a set schedule, you don't have to worry about finding time to practice. It becomes part of your daily or weekly life. And if you're practicing with friends, you can set up something similar. Maybe once a week, you and your friends get together for an English hour, where you only speak English to each other. This doesn't have to be a formal, serious session. It could be something as simple as hanging out and chatting about your day, your hobbies, or even your favorite TV shows. The important thing is that you're practicing, and the more often you do it, the better you'll get.
That's such a good point, Adam. Regularity is key when it comes to language learning, and scheduling specific times to practice English is one of the most effective ways to ensure you're getting enough practice. But it's not just about speaking English at set times. It's also about making those practice sessions fun and engaging. One way to do that is by planning English-themed activities with your friends and family. For example, you could all get together and cook a meal using an English recipe. Not only will you be practicing your English as you read and follow the recipe, but you'll also be having fun and learning new cooking skills at the same time. It's a great way to combine learning with something enjoyable. Another idea is to organize language games that everyone can participate in. For instance, you could play word association games, where one person says a word in English and the next person has to say a related word as quickly as possible. Or you could play trivia games where the questions are all in English and everyone has to answer in English as well. These kinds of activities help keep things light and fun while still giving you valuable practice in using the language. And because you're doing these activities with people you're close to, like friends and family, it creates a relaxed environment where you can practice without feeling too much pressure.
I love that idea, Julia. English-themed activities are such a creative way to get everyone involved, and they help make practicing English feel less like a chore and more like a fun group activity. And the best part is, you don't even need to set aside a huge amount of time for these activities. Even just 30 minutes of playing a language game or cooking with an English recipe can be a really effective practice session. The more creative you get with your activities, the more enjoyable the practice will be. Plus, when you're doing something you enjoy, like cooking or playing games, you're more likely to stay motivated and want to practice regularly. But while it's important to have a regular practice schedule and engaging activities, it's equally important to remember to be patient and supportive with yourself and with the people you're practicing with. Learning a language can be challenging, and it's normal to make mistakes along the way. If you're practicing with family or friends, it's essential to create a positive and encouraging environment where everyone feels comfortable speaking and making mistakes. One of the best ways to support each other is by offering gentle corrections and feedback without being overly critical. For example, if someone mispronounces a word or makes a grammar mistake, you can help them by repeating the word correctly in a kind and supportive way rather than focusing too much on the mistake itself.
Yes, patience is absolutely key. Learning a language takes time, and it's important to create an atmosphere where everyone feels safe to speak and learn at their own pace. When you're practicing with friends and family, the goal isn't to be perfect. It's to improve little by little. Everyone is going to make mistakes, and that's totally okay. The more comfortable you are with making mistakes, the more you'll learn from them. So if you're setting up regular practice sessions with your family or friends, make sure that everyone understands that it's a supportive space where mistakes are not only allowed, but expected. That way, no one will feel embarrassed or discouraged if they mess up. And as Adam mentioned, being supportive also means giving constructive feedback in a way that helps the other person improve without making them feel bad. For example, if someone is struggling with their pronunciation, you can model the correct pronunciation for them and encourage them to try again. You can even turn it into a mini practice session where you both practice saying the word correctly until they feel confident with it. This kind of supportive interaction helps build confidence and makes the practice sessions more effective.
Exactly, Julia. It's all about creating a positive learning environment where everyone feels encouraged to keep going, even when they face challenges. And if you're practicing with family members, you can all take turns helping each other. Maybe one person is stronger in grammar, and they can help others with that, while someone else is better at pronunciation and can offer tips on that. By supporting each other and sharing your strengths, you create a team effort that makes language learning more enjoyable and successful for everyone involved. To sum up, creating a regular practice schedule with friends and family is one of the best ways to stay consistent and motivated in your English learning journey. Whether you're setting aside time during dinner, planning fun English-themed activities, or playing language games together, the important thing is that you're practicing in a way that's engaging and enjoyable. And by being patient and supportive with each other, you'll create a positive learning environment that will help you and your loved ones improve your English skills over time. So, grab your friends and family, set up your practice schedule, and get started on your journey to fluency. Now that we've talked about all the wonderful ways friends and family can help you practice English, it's time to address some of the challenges you might face along the way. Learning a language, especially when you're trying to practice with people you're close to, can bring up certain difficulties that might make the process feel a bit harder. But the good news is, every challenge has a solution, and in this segment, we'll dive into some of the most common obstacles people face when practicing English with loved ones, and how to overcome them. One challenge that many learners experience is that their friends or family members might not be fluent in English themselves. you might feel excited and ready to practice, but your loved ones might not have the same level of English ability, or they may not feel as confident in their skills. This can make it hard to have long or meaningful conversations in English, especially if you feel like you're the only one trying to speak the language. But don't let that discourage you. Even if your friends or family don't speak English fluently, there are still plenty of ways they can support you in your practice. One strategy is to start with very basic English conversations. Keep things simple and don't worry about making the conversation perfect. For example, if you're speaking with family members who don't feel comfortable using English, you can start by teaching them some basic phrases or words. Think of it as a team effort, where you're all learning together. You might ask them questions like, "How are you?" or "What did you eat for lunch today?" in English, and encourage them to respond with short, simple answers. This way, you're still practicing speaking and listening, but you're also helping your family slowly become more familiar with the language. And if they don't know how to respond, that's okay. You can help them by offering translations or explaining what the words mean in your native language.
That's a really helpful approach, Adam. And I think it's important to remind everyone that even if your family members or friends don't speak English fluently, they can still be a valuable part of your language learning journey. Sometimes just having someone to practice with, even if they're learning too, can make a big difference. It's not always about having perfect conversations. It's more about creating a habit of speaking English regularly, and the more you practice together, the more comfortable everyone will become. So, if your loved ones are also learning English, you can treat it like a shared experience. You could set up regular study sessions where you go over new vocabulary words together or practice short conversations. It may not feel perfect at first, but over time, everyone will improve. Now, let's talk about another challenge that many people face when practicing English with their friends and family: feeling shy or nervous. This is especially common if you're not used to speaking English around people you're close to. You might worry about making mistakes or feel self-conscious because your family knows you so well. This can create a lot of pressure, and it's completely normal to feel that way. But here's the thing. It's important to remember that your loved ones are there to support you, not judge you. The more you practice speaking English, the more you'll realize that making mistakes is just part of the learning process, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. One strategy to overcome this shyness is to start small. If you feel nervous about speaking English in front of your whole family, you could begin by practicing with just one person at a time, maybe a sibling, parent, or close friend. By keeping the audience small, you'll feel less pressure and more comfortable experimenting with the language. Another tip is to start with casual, low-stakes conversations, like talking about your day or discussing simple topics. Don't worry about using big, complicated sentences at first. Focus on building your confidence with the basics, and gradually, you'll feel more comfortable speaking English in front of others.
I think that's great advice, Julia. Starting small and gradually building up your confidence can make a big difference when you're feeling shy or nervous about speaking English. And something else to keep in mind is that your friends and family want to see you succeed. They're not going to judge you if you stumble over a word or get stuck trying to remember the right phrase. In fact, they'll probably admire your effort and be proud of the progress you're making. If you remind yourself that the people around you are cheering you on, it can help reduce some of the anxiety that comes with speaking in a second language. Now, if you find that you're still struggling to get your friends or family involved in your English practice, there's another tool that can really help: technology. In today's world, we have so many apps, websites, and online tools that can make learning English easier. And you can use these resources to bring your family and friends into the process, even if they're not fluent in the language. For example, there are plenty of language learning apps like Duolingo, Memrise, or Babbel that allow users to practice vocabulary, grammar, and speaking skills. You can invite your family members or friends to join these apps and practice English alongside you. It becomes a shared activity that's both fun and educational.
Absolutely, Adam. Technology can be a real game changer when it comes to learning English with loved ones. For example, you and your family could all download the same language app and set daily or weekly goals to see who can make the most progress. Some apps even have built-in games and challenges that make learning more interactive. You could make it a family competition where everyone tries to beat each other's scores, or you could work together to achieve certain goals. This not only keeps things fun, but also ensures that everyone is practicing consistently without feeling like they have to sit down for a formal study session. Another great option is using online resources like YouTube videos, podcasts, or language exchange platforms. You could watch an English video or listen to an English podcast together, and then discuss it in English afterward. This is a great way to practice listening and comprehension skills in a group setting. And if you're still nervous about speaking in front of your family, you could even start by practicing with a language exchange partner online. There are plenty of websites and apps that connect you with people from around the world who are also learning English. You can practice speaking in a low-pressure environment and then gradually build up the confidence to practice with your family and friends.
That's such a smart idea, Julia. Using language apps and online resources can really help bring everyone on board with your English practice, even if they're not fluent themselves. And let's not forget about the power of social media. There are plenty of online communities where people are learning English, and you can invite your friends and family to join these communities with you. For example, you could join an English-speaking group on Facebook or participate in language learning forums where you can practice writing and speaking English with other learners from around the world. You and your family could even start your own group chat where everyone shares English phrases, tips, or questions. It's a great way to stay connected and motivated. At the end of the day, the most important thing is to keep trying, even when you face challenges. Whether it's finding ways to practice with loved ones who don't speak English fluently, overcoming your own nervousness, or using technology to enhance your learning experience, there's always a solution. And the more creative and flexible you are, the more fun and effective your English practice will be. So don't give up. Keep experimenting, stay patient with yourself and your loved ones, and before you know it, you'll see major improvements in your language skills.
That's exactly right, Adam. Language learning is a journey, and every challenge you face along the way is just another step toward becoming more fluent and confident in English. So keep practicing, keep involving your friends and family, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself. You've got this.
Now that we've discussed the importance of practicing English with friends and family and how to overcome some of the challenges, it's time to get into one of the most important parts of learning a language: practical exercises. Often, one of the best ways to learn is to get hands-on experience, and today, we're going to go over several exercises and activities you can do with your friends and family to practice English together. These exercises will not only help you improve your vocabulary and grammar, but they'll also make practicing more engaging and fun, which is crucial to keeping everyone motivated over the long term. One of the best ways to practice English in a more interactive way is through role-playing. Role-playing is when you and your friends or family act out different common situations using English as much as possible. The reason role-playing works so well is that it mimics real-life scenarios, giving you the chance to practice how you would communicate in various settings. For instance, you can practice ordering food at a restaurant. One person could play the role of the customer, and the other person could be the waiter or waitress. This exercise helps you practice specific vocabulary related to food, asking questions politely, and making requests, all while building your confidence in a casual, low-pressure environment. You can even take turns being the customer and the server to get more practice from different angles.
That's such a fantastic idea, Adam. What's really great about role-playing is that it allows you to practice practical, everyday English that you'll actually use in real-life situations. And you don't have to limit yourself to just ordering food. You can create all kinds of scenarios to practice. For example, you could role-play a conversation between a customer and a store clerk when you're buying something. Or you could pretend you're making small talk with someone new at a party or a meeting. You could even practice giving directions to someone who is lost, or acting out a conversation at the airport when checking in for a flight. Each of these scenarios focuses on different sets of vocabulary and phrases, giving you a wide range of language skills to practice. Plus, it's a lot of fun. Another great activity to incorporate into your practice is organizing English-only days or events. The idea behind this is to dedicate a specific day, or even just a few hours, where everyone involved in your group agrees to speak only English. It could be during family dinner time, a weekend activity, or even a casual hangout with friends. The purpose of this activity is to immerse yourself in the language, which forces you to think and respond in English without relying on your native language. Now, it might sound a little intimidating at first, but remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's progress. You can start by keeping the conversations simple, and as you get more comfortable, you can try discussing more complex topics in English.
Exactly, Julia. What's really beneficial about having an English-only day is that it gives you an opportunity to immerse yourself in the language without leaving your home or country. Immersion is one of the most effective ways to learn any language because it forces your brain to adapt and think in that language. So, during these English-only days, you can set up different activities or conversations based on what you and your family or friends enjoy doing. For instance, you can plan to cook dinner together, but instead of following a recipe in your native language, you follow an English recipe. You could also watch an English movie together and then have a conversation about it afterward, only in English. The key is to get creative with these days and make them as fun and engaging as possible. Now, one of the most valuable tools for improving your English during these practice sessions is recording your conversations. This exercise might sound a little intimidating at first. Nobody likes hearing their own voice on tape, but it can be a game changer when it comes to improving your speaking skills. Recording yourself and your friends or family during conversations allows you to go back and listen to how you actually sound when speaking English. You might notice things you didn't realize while you were talking, like small pronunciation mistakes or areas where you could improve your grammar. By reviewing the recordings together, you can get valuable feedback and pinpoint the specific areas that need improvement.
Yes, recording conversations is such a powerful tool, Adam. I know it can feel strange at first, but it really helps to hear yourself speaking English. It allows you to identify areas where you might hesitate or where your pronunciation could use some work. And if you do this activity with family or friends, they can give you feedback and help point out things you might not notice yourself. For instance, maybe you consistently forget to add the S when talking about something in the third person, like saying he eat instead of he eats. Having a recording lets you go back and catch those little details, which are so important for becoming more fluent and natural in your speech. One way you can do this is by choosing a specific conversation topic, like discussing your plans for the weekend or talking about a recent event, and record the conversation from start to finish. Then, afterward, sit down with your friends or family, listen to the recording, and talk about what went well and what could be improved. You could even make it a regular activity, maybe once a week, where you record your English conversations and review them together. Over time, you'll start to see major improvements in your fluency, grammar, and confidence.
Another benefit of recording conversations is that it helps you track your progress over time. At first, you might notice that you hesitate or search for words, but after a few weeks or months of consistent practice, you'll be able to go back and listen to how much smoother and more natural your conversations have become. It's incredibly motivating to hear yourself getting better, and it keeps you going when the learning process feels challenging. Plus, recording conversations is something you can do even if you don't have anyone to practice with. You can simply record yourself speaking about different topics or reading a passage from an English book, and then listen back to evaluate your own performance. So, let's recap some of these practical exercises you can do to practice English with your friends and family. First, role-playing common daily situations is a great way to practice vocabulary and phrases you'll actually use in real life, like ordering food or making small talk. Second, organizing English-only days or activities immerses you in the language. helping you think and respond in English without relying on your native language. And finally, recording conversations and reviewing them together is a powerful way to identify areas for improvement and track your progress over time.
Absolutely, Adam. The key to all of these activities is to make them as engaging and enjoyable as possible. The more fun you have with the process, the more likely you are to stay motivated and keep practicing. And don't forget, practicing English doesn't have to be a solo journey. By involving your friends and family in these activities, you're not only improving your own skills, but you're also creating an environment where everyone can learn together, which makes the process a lot more enjoyable.
As we reach the final segment of our podcast today, it's crucial to discuss an aspect of learning that can make or break your progress in mastering the English language: motivation and consistency. You see, practicing English isn't just about having the right exercises or methods. It's also about maintaining a steady commitment to improvement over time. This can be challenging, especially when life gets busy or when you hit a plateau where it feels like you're not making any progress. So let's dive into some effective strategies for staying motivated and ensuring that practicing English becomes a consistent part of your daily routine. First and foremost, one of the best ways to stay motivated is to set realistic and achievable goals for yourself. Whether you're aiming to learn a certain number of new words each week, improving your pronunciation, or even just practicing speaking for a specific amount of time each day, having clear goals gives you a target to strive for. However, it's essential to ensure these goals are realistic and tailored to your current level of proficiency. For instance, if you're a beginner, aiming to learn 20 new vocabulary words in one day might feel overwhelming, and you could end up discouraged if you don't achieve it. Instead, setting a goal to learn just 5 new words a week is much more manageable and allows for gradual progress without creating stress.
That's a great point, Adam. Additionally, once you achieve these smaller goals, it's incredibly important to celebrate those accomplishments, no matter how small they may seem. Celebrating your achievements reinforces the habit and keeps you motivated to continue practicing. For example, if you learn a new set of vocabulary words, take a moment to reward yourself. This could be as simple as treating yourself to a favorite snack, enjoying a fun activity, or even sharing your accomplishment with friends and family. By doing this, you create positive associations with your learning process, making it more enjoyable and less of a chore. When you notice improvements, whether it's speaking more fluently, understanding English movies without subtitles, or successfully using new vocabulary in conversation, recognize that these are significant milestones in your language learning journey. Each small victory builds your confidence, making you more enthusiastic about continuing to practice. Moreover, keeping a language journal where you write down your achievements and progress can also serve as a visual reminder of how far you've come, which is especially helpful on days when you feel less motivated.
Absolutely, Julia. Another powerful way to maintain consistency in your English practice is by establishing a routine. Routines provide structure to your day, making it easier to fit language practice into your busy schedule. Consider choosing specific times during the week when you can dedicate yourself to practicing English with friends or family. Whether it's setting aside 30 minutes every evening after dinner for an English conversation or scheduling a weekly movie night where everyone watches an English film, having these dedicated times will help reinforce the habit. Consistency is key, and by making English practice a regular part of your routine, you will gradually develop a natural rhythm that will make it easier to continue improving. However, it's essential to stay flexible as well. Life can be unpredictable, and sometimes schedules need to change. If you miss a practice session, don't be too hard on yourself. Instead, focus on getting back on track as soon as possible. One missed day does not mean that you've failed. Rather, view it as an opportunity to recalibrate and find new ways to fit English practice into your life.
You're so right, Adam. Another fantastic way to keep the motivation alive is to create a support system with your friends and family. Having a group of people who are also learning English can encourage you to practice consistently, as you'll all be working towards similar goals. consider forming a small study group where you meet regularly to practice speaking or participate in English-related activities together. This way, not only do you motivate each other, but you also hold each other accountable. When you know that others are relying on you to show up for practice, it adds an extra layer of commitment that can really help maintain consistency. Moreover, within this support system, you can establish a friendly competition to keep things exciting. For instance, you can set challenges for each other, like who can learn the most new vocabulary in a week, or who can hold an English conversation for the longest time without switching back to their native language. This element of competition can add fun and enthusiasm to your practice sessions, making it feel less like work and more like an enjoyable game.
I love that idea, Julia. Incorporating some friendly competition not only motivates everyone involved, but also fosters a sense of camaraderie among the group. Additionally, you can keep things fresh by occasionally changing up your practice activities. If you notice that a particular exercise or routine is becoming stale, don't hesitate to mix things up. Try exploring new methods of learning, like joining an English-speaking club or participating in online language exchange platforms where you can connect with other learners around the world. Engaging with diverse learning experiences can spark new interest and excitement in your language practice. Finally, let's not overlook the importance of a positive mindset when it comes to language learning. Approach your English practice with a mindset that embraces mistakes as part of the learning process. Everyone makes errors, especially when they're learning a new language. Instead of feeling discouraged by mistakes, view them as opportunities to grow and improve. Each error is a stepping stone toward fluency, and the more you practice, the more confident you'll become in your abilities.
Absolutely, Adam. Maintaining a positive attitude can dramatically influence your motivation levels and overall experience with learning English. Surround yourself with encouraging and supportive people who inspire you to keep going even when it gets tough. Remember, the journey of language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. It takes time, dedication, and a lot of practice to see significant results. But with consistent effort and the right mindset, you will surely make progress. So as we wrap up this segment, remember to set realistic goals, celebrate your achievements, create a routine, engage with a supportive community, and maintain a positive outlook. These strategies will not only help you stay motivated, but will also ensure that practicing English becomes an enjoyable and consistent part of your daily life.
As we draw to a close in today's enlightening discussion on how to practice English with friends and family, it's essential to take a moment to recap some of the key points we've explored throughout the podcast. We began our journey by emphasizing the importance of practicing English in a comfortable environment, specifically with the people who mean the most to us, our friends and family. This practice not only fosters fluency, but also significantly boosts our confidence when speaking the language, as we are often more at ease in the presence of loved ones. In our conversation, we delved into various effective strategies for making English practice enjoyable and productive. We discussed how casual conversations can seamlessly integrate language practice into everyday life, encouraging listeners to share their daily activities in English and engage in simple dialogues about topics they find relatable, such as school, work, or hobbies. Moreover, we highlighted the fun aspect of language learning by suggesting the inclusion of games and movie nights, where participants not only watch and enjoy English films, but also engage in discussions that reinforce their understanding and speaking skills.
That's right, Adam. Additionally, we covered the vital role that family plays in supporting English practice. By engaging in simple English conversations during family meals or gatherings, labeling household items in English, and reading stories aloud together, families can create a supportive learning environment that nurtures language development. This collaborative approach reinforces vocabulary acquisition and builds confidence, making the learning process feel more communal and enjoyable. We also discussed how to create a structured practice schedule with friends and family, emphasizing the importance of consistency in language learning. Regularly setting aside specific times for English practice, whether during dinner or on weekends, fosters a routine that can lead to significant improvements over time. It's crucial to remain patient and supportive during practice sessions, as language learning is a journey that comes with its own set of challenges. In addressing potential challenges, we offered practical advice on how to navigate situations where friends or family may not be fluent in English. We suggested embracing technology through language apps and online resources to involve loved ones in the learning process. We also provided practical exercises and activities, such as role-playing everyday situations and organising English-only days, to make language practice engaging and relatable.
As we wrap up, let us not forget the significance of staying motivated and consistent in our English practice. By setting achievable goals, celebrating small victories, and maintaining a positive mindset, you can create an enriching environment for language learning that not only benefits you, but also inspires those around you to join in the journey. Remember, the key to success in learning English, or any language for that matter, is to enjoy the process and relish the interactions you have with your friends and family along the way.
We hope today's episode has provided you with practical tips and valuable insights on how to effectively practice English with your loved ones. Before we conclude, we would like to invite our listeners to share their own experiences and thoughts on practicing English with family and friends. Your stories and insights are incredibly valuable, and we would love to hear how you incorporate language practice into your daily lives. Feel free to leave your comments on our social media pages or in the comments section of our podcast. Sharing your experiences not only helps you reflect on your journey, but also inspires others who are navigating the same path.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode of The English Globe. We are truly grateful for your support and engagement. Your commitment to improving your English skills is commendable, and we hope to continue to be a part of your learning journey. In our next episode, we will delve into a fascinating topic that many of you have been asking about: how to enhance your English speaking skills through everyday conversations. We will explore practical techniques to make your conversations more impactful and engaging while improving your fluency.
That's right. Be sure to join us for that episode, where we will share more tips and insights to further enhance your English learning experience. Until next time, keep practicing, stay motivated, and remember that every conversation is an opportunity to grow and learn. Have a wonderful day, everyone.